you should always have that balance between whoever you pray to, asking for help and saying thank you.
One of the funniest, nicest, most interesting, most stylish, straight out of Kempton Park, it is Schalk Bezuidenhout.
Your comedy and stand-ups, it's very relevant and authentic. How do you remain authentic and ensure that the creativity and your craft comes from inside out as opposed to, outside in?
I think the authenticity comes from honesty. If you are like very honest in your comedy, it feels authentic because it doesn't feel like you're hiding anything. I feel a big responsibility to my audience. If they leave my show going, that was really great, then I sleep well at night. But that does also turn on the heat and the pressure.
How do you deal with that pressure?
I don't try and... Everyone must just know my dog is here. He's under the table. So if you hear a
Some box.
small dog sound,
It's not
it's
Schalk.
not my stomach.
Schalk, I usually begin by asking my guests about that early childhood environment because it gives me an understanding of who the person is. And, apart from that is also this question about, are you a product of your environment or are you in spite of your environment? An example could be, your mom happens to be a doctor and then you become a doctor. Or your mom's a doctor and then you choose to be an artist completely in spite of.
Yeah.
Which would you say which side do you fall under?
In spite of, just because, and I don't mean this in a negative way towards Kempton Park, where I'm from, because I love Kempton Park. But I think the East Rand, it's easy. I think you can get stuck there kind of easily. Like a lot of people sort of either then go away to study and then end up back in the East Rand and stuff. And I think just growing up in a place like Kempton Park that I always describe it as it's a big place, like it's a city basically, and it's part of the bigger Joburg area, but it definitely did have that small town feel. You knew who the who's who were in Kempton Park. It's the same as like Klerksdorp, I would say. Klerksdorp is not a small place. It's not like 20,000 people living in Klerksdorp. It's geographically a big place and there's a lot of people living there, but it's still at the same time, people know each other. You know the doctors, the dentist is, Kempton Park is like that. Whereas in Joburg, there's so many doctors and so many dentists and there's so many, So I think just because it had that kind of small town feel, I really wanted to just like spread my wings. That's also why I wanted to come to UCT. Well, it was also because asking around, a lot of people were saying that UCT is a very good university for drama. So that is also partly why I chose it.
So, you were describing that environment. What did success look like back then for you?
Just I guess because like our entertainment, we have more like of a Hollywood. I grew up with more of like the Hollywood picture in my head. So I think success, the ultimate level of success for me was like an Oscar, winning an Oscar, because I wanted to, like growing up, my focus was way more acting. Didn't really know about stand-up comedy. I mean, I saw it, but it wasn't like something that I saw really as a proper career for me. So it was always more acting focused. But look, for me, actually success was just, can I do this for a living? Like, can I actually not have to have side hustles? Because growing up in South Africa, all the actors will often say, and established actors sometimes, like, you need to have your fingers in a few pies, and, like acting in South Africa doesn't pay amazing. If you do theater, it doesn't pay well. And also, you're not doing a theater production every month. You're doing maybe one every 6 months or 4 months, and then you get paid for it, and maybe that sustains you for 2 months, but then there's 2 months where so I was like, if I can just do this, if I can just perform full time and it's all I do, just perform, and I don't have to kind of teach drama on the side or have all these little side hustles. For me, that would be like, okay, I am an actor or a comedian or entertainer or whatever you want to call it.
And when was the seed planted for you to, perhaps pursue stand up?
Coming to UCT and kind of just being a bit bored with my course, very theoretical, kind of just wanting to get on stage. And eventually I was like, what can I, you can't act, you can't like go to someone and be like, put me in your play, especially not as a student. So I was like, stand-up comedy was this thing where anyone can do it, the club scene, I don't know really how it is now. I'm sure it's sort of similar, but back then you could kind of rock up at any club gig in Cape Town and be like, hey, I want to try stand-up, and the guy would probably go, okay, cool, next week, come back, you can have 5 minutes. Yeah.
And
not guaranteed you'll do well, but it was a very welcoming. The stand-up scene in South Africa is very welcoming to people who want to try it. That's why I always like when people message me, oh, can you be my mentor, or like I want to do stand-up. I'm like, dude, it's not hard to get on stage. The hard part is to be funny, but you can easily get on stage in South Africa. There's now so many gigs in Cape Town. I heard there's one at like Ground Culture, which is like a Dacha coffee shop, and there's one here and there's one there, and they're always looking for new people, because you have your established people perform, but it's always fun to someone goes, hey, I want to try stand-up. Yeah, sure, pull through, But the thing is, normally a lot of them kind of fall away because people get frustrated if they're not immediately like hilarious. But that could take years, dude. I mean, geez, when I started, I didn't get paid for the first year of doing it. I was an open spot for the first year. I was luckily kind of immediately funny, I guess. Like I had like that funny bone. But I mean, you saw guys on your level of like still open spots, not getting paid, who'd been doing it for years. And then it was a good reality check to be like, wow, okay. But then you also, because there's no like structure, like in a, let's say, more corporate thing like Investec, right? It won't be like this guy will make partner in a year and this guy makes partner in 10 years. Like the difference is never that big. Whereas in comedy, you have Trevor Noah going from an open spot to doing his first sold out one-man show at the Lyric Theatre, and filming his first DVD and everything, and that being like that first DVD, The Daywalker, being in everyone's homes. That was all in 3 years. And then you have other guys' journeys that they only do their first one-man show after 10 years.
So what's the factors or the traits, in your opinion, the person that does it in 3 years compared to the person that does it in 10?
There is definitely an element of hard work and hustle. Like a lot of the young guys these days are just, they kind of wait more for opportunities, I think. Whereas I think me and the guys who came up with me, we would constantly be messaging the established acts. Like I remember messaging Barry Hilton on Facebook. If I saw him do a show at the backstage, hey Barry, do you have an opening act? If not, can I? And he would be like, cool. You don't get paid. You don't ask for payment. It was just the opportunity to perform in a theater for 600 people.
It almost seems that you also have to start by perhaps having something else that's supporting you, a part-time job, a full-time job, and comedy on the
definitely.
side.
I was lucky in the sense that I was studying. So that was my part-time job. And obviously when you study, in most cases, I would say, maybe you're getting money from your parents, or I wouldn't say in most cases, but anyway, in my case and my friends who are studying with me, like we were getting allowances from our parents. You know, obviously we are staying for free because we have been put in res, and that also came with food. So it was some pocket money from our parents, basically, which was always just drinking money.
Yeah. And you spoke about a funny bone that you have. So,
Yeah,
you know,
that's the other element. Yeah, sorry for interrupting you.
no,
Go.
it's okay. Like the question I had was, it usually comes from a place of perhaps experiencing adversity, i.e., bullying from a young age, or perhaps you're exposed to that in, you know, from your parents or someone in the family that happens to be super funny and, you know,
Yeah.
very open and expresses themselves well. So, if it's adversity, firstly, was it adversity, or were you always that kid that, you know, kind of naturally had it, and if someone asked you to perform, you'd perform, and were you encouraged?
Yeah, I would say it was like both because I was bullied in school and stuff because, you know, you do stand out in Afrikaans school, not in a good way if you are very like performative, you know. And I was from a young age, that's why I say it's both because from a young age I was like performance. I just wanted to perform. And, you know, in school, in the class, I want to like make everyone laugh and kind of do silly things to do that. But that also then at the same time makes you stand out in a different way because, you know, the kind of archetype Afrikaans boy primary school is like you're a boy, you get dirty, you play in the mud, you playing rugby, kicking a ball, you know. Now I wasn't that at all. So the fact that I was like that made me stand out a lot, or yeah, got me a lot of attention. But that attention was not always positive attention. It's often negative attention from the other boys, calling you a morphee and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so it came from both. I guess that also gives you a bit of a drive to stick to the performance thing instead of giving up on it, because then you're doing it from a place of like I'll show all of you, you know, I'll show you that I can make a success.
Do you still
out
feel
of
like that?
this. No, man, like kids are stupid. I also said some terrible cock to some other kids, you know. Like I did voortrekkers, which is Boy Scouts.
Okay.
And me and my two friends, you know, like at school I was being bullied, but in voortrekkers we were the three cool kids in the voortrekkers, which just shows that you could be like in the bigger picture kind of a nerd or a loser, whatever, but in a certain circle you are cool, you know.
It's such a good metaphor for life because you can literally find the place where you fit in
Yeah,
and where
but
your
then
people are and where
in
your
that
tribe is.
space where I had power as like a cool kid, maybe, you know, then we bullied other kids, which I'm not proud of, but then, you know, it's actually hypocritical because I was bullied by other kids, so I should have actually been nicer where I could. You know, also I wasn't like bullied, like we like punching them or whatever, but like, you know, you're making fun of other boys and yeah, stuff like that. But anyway, but it's just because you don't have the emotional maturity at that age to realize the power of words and what words do and whatever. And actually, the other day I was speaking to an ex-girlfriend of mine, and we'd now become friends again after a few years. And now we actually have like this great relationship. We're friends again, and we like chat and whatever. And there's no vibes, you know. It's just anyway. And then I said to her, I'm actually really sorry for how I handled the breakup because definitely I could have done that better. And then I said, but you know, at the time I was 25, and that was the best that I could do for the emotional maturity that I had. You know, that was the best that I was capable of, because you're still developing so much, even your brain still. So we must also, you know, forgive ourselves for if you're like not proud of anything. That's just the best that you could do at that point, you know, and especially like stuff like children. I didn't know any better. I wouldn't now, if I saw one of my high school bullies be like, you owe me an apology. That guy would probably be like, dude, I don't even remember You know, that one time punching you in the stomach or tackling you in front of everyone on purpose. I probably won't even remember that, you know?
And I think that's where us not holding on to things and
Yeah.
releasing it.
And also, if I had to confront him about it anyway, he'd be like, dude, I was 8. Like, what, you know, or 12 or whatever. Now, if you look at a 12-year-old, they're so small. It's like a baby. He'd be like, what did, you know, like, geez.
I think that's such a good point about also forgiving ourselves for. I think also you essentially, because you acknowledging it now, that also shows a lot of growth and maturity. Because I feel like if you're still doing those things, then you haven't grown up or you haven't learned your
Yeah.
lesson. But the fact that you are acknowledging it and talking to your ex-girlfriend and saying, "Hey, I'm sorry,"
Yeah.
that's a lot of growth.
I just mean, like, you have to see things in context. You know, if you got bullied in school, who were the kids that were bullying you? If it was maybe the principal bullying you, you'd go, yeah, a 40-year-old man should be better or should know better. But you can't expect, I almost want to say, anyone under the age of 25 to know better. You know, you just,
And now in your journey, your comedy and stand-ups, it's very relevant and authentic. I think authentic to who you are. How do you remain authentic and ensure that the creativity and your craft comes from inside out as opposed to, outside in?
I think the authenticity comes from honesty. If you are like very honest in your comedy, it feels authentic because it doesn't feel like you're hiding anything. And unfortunately, that means talking about the bad as well as the good. Like now in Christmas Bonanza that we're doing at the Baxter, the most recent thing in my life is my divorce. And it's a huge, I mean, it will probably be the biggest thing I'll go through ever in terms of like a personal life thing. So it's almost impossible as a stand-up to go on stage, and also because like our lives are so public now because of social media. Like some comedians maybe don't share as much on their socials as others. For example, Jerry Seinfeld, his social media is more just like, these are the shows that I'm doing this month. It's not very personal. I quite early on went very personal. That wasn't a choice that I made. It just kind of happened that way, that I share a lot, But at the same time, it's special for the audience because they really feel they know you. They like, every night after shows, I get people going, I feel like I know you because I know your dog's names. I know where you live. Like, I know where you got married. I know what your wife looked like, and I saw your wedding and I saw your divorce. So it's like quite special to be able to share that with your audience, but it obviously does also, what comes with the territory then is that when things happen in your personal life that aren't good, you can't just ignore it because the audience are going to sit there the whole night going, is he going to mention it? Is he going to talk about his divorce? If you don't talk about it, everyone's going to walk out there saying to each other, yeah, did you notice he didn't address it at all? He's not talking about it at all. It's a bit weird because he's going through it, but on stage he's just like talking about other random stuff. So
and people can see through that, can't they?
Yeah, exactly. So I talk about it on stage, and I think it comes across very authentic because people can tell it is a hard thing he's going through, but he's obviously choosing to see the light at the end of the tunnel, see the funny side. I always laugh with other comedians because we call it the comedian's curse, is that like the most messed up thing can happen to you, and almost immediately you're like, wait, maybe there's a joke there, and we can't help it. It's just where our brains go, Like something could, like one day my mother's going to die and I'm going to be at her funeral. And if something funny happened at her funeral, there would be a part of my brain that goes, I must remember that because that is something funny that I could, and it's just like an automatic thing your brain does. It's not a choice, but
Is that a blessing to be able to essentially channel that painful experience into material that you can?
absolutely, because the material, like me now talking about it on stage and stuff, and when I say talking about it, I'm talking about my own personal experience. I don't talk about my ex. It's more my own experience of going through it. But that's a big part of my healing process is talking about it, laughing about it, or at least laughing at the funny things about it. For example, everyone in their life who's gone through a breakup can now look back and go, that is quite funny. That night that I was sitting crying into a tub of ice cream. Now that I have some distance from it, if I think back, that's actually like quite funny in how pathetic it was, So with everything in our life, there's always something funny that you'd be able to extract, Is my divorce funny? No. But what can be funny is what people say when they hear that you got divorced. You know what I mean? So the divorce
reaction.
itself is not funny, but you can go, there's one lady heard I was getting divorced and she said to me, why don't you, that is funny. So it's just picking up the funny things within, or people on Facebook going, oh, he's divorced now. Is he going to climb out the closet? I've always thought he was gay. That is funny. The divorce is not funny, but that is a funny thing that happened as a result of the divorce, which now I use as material.
And during the separation, what did you learn about yourself throughout that process?
I don't think I'm far enough out the other side. I'm like kind of only like just out the other side. I think only with a bit more distance will I really be able to take a step back and see what I learned about myself. Maybe something I learned about myself is that being single is way harder than... That's another funny thing that happens with the divorce is that your friends, your guy friends who are still in relationships and married, and they go, oh, dude, I'm so jealous because you're just going to pull. You're just going to pull chicks. Oh, my word, you're going to have to beat them off with a baton after your shows. These girls are just going to be all over you. And even my girlfriends as well. My female friends, they'd be like, oh, Schalk, you are in for such a wild ride. Dude, go buy now condoms in bulk. You're not gonna be able to know which way to. And then the reality is like after the show, I'm kind of like, oh, like who's here? And then it's like, creak, creak, creak. So I think the biggest thing I learned from all of this is like with relationships, it's communication. Like, just have to communicate. You almost have to check in with each other like at least weekly and just be like, where you at? Cool. Are we still on the same page? Feelings, what,
Or even daily, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I think, weekly, your days get so busy that a week could fly by like this.
Yeah, and the thing is, often the other person sometimes internalizes stuff that, and they going through a whole journey, but because it's all happening on the inside, you're completely unaware of that journey. Maybe I did it as well to an extent. So who knows?
And what would you say to others that are perhaps going through something similar, or perhaps advise on a precaution, for it not to happen? You mentioned communication.
Yeah, dude. The point I'm now is like if I had to speak to anyone going through it, I'd just be like, sorry, it's cuck. Sometimes there doesn't need to be like advice or a lesson
Just be
or
there.
just it's cuck.
Mm.
You know, sometimes things are just cuck.
Mm.
There's not like a beautiful bow on it that's like, oh wow, but I've got this great Confucius moment from it. Sometimes you learn folk all. Sometimes you just it happens. Some bad things happen to you, and you know, like a good friend
Mm.
of mine, when we were studying, died on her 21st birthday, and her birthday party was here in Cape Town at the Kimberley Hotel in like right there by that, is it Parliament or what's that
Yeah, yeah,
building?
yeah. And CBD side.
Yeah, CBD. And she fell off the balcony. She was sitting on the balcony with her back to the road, and she kind of lost her balance and she fell and she died. Something like that. That's a
At the
really
party.
yeah, on her 21st birthday at her party.
Goodness.
And we were all there, and it was just super traumatic. But anyway, that's a bad thing that happened to all of us and to her, I guess. But I mean, we're still alive. But that's something that there's no lesson. You can't look back at it and go, "Oh, what did we learn here today?" Don't sit on a balcony. Like, there's no like lesson. Didn't really learn anything about myself. It was just a cuck thing that happened that you just go, sure, yeah.
So is it perhaps building your character?
Yeah,
Or
everything I guess plays a part in
Mm.
forming who you are.
that's really traumatic.
Yeah, but I mean that could have easily, like once it go back to a divorce, it can influence your character in a positive way because it could, for example, make you more aware or more like this or more like that in a next relationship. But for a lot of people, it could also influence your character in a negative way because it can definitely cause trust issues in next relationships, and it can also make you like more kind of hard and cold and cynical when it comes to caring for another person.
Mm.
But I think we live in a world where everything's like take power over your life. Your life is in your hands.
Mm.
To a big extent, I really think it's not. If you go through a divorce, what's going to happen to you is going to happen to you. I don't think you can be like, I'm going to become a better person from this. Maybe you won't. You know what I mean?
I think, yeah, what you're talking about is just reminding me of Stoicism, when they speak about you can't really control the external environment and things that happen, but you can control how you react to that situation, right?
Yeah, to an extent.
And I'll
I
give you an example. Like a simple example could be sitting in traffic and somebody cuts you off, a taxi on the N2 cuts you off. Now you can react in a way in which it's only going to cause harm to you. Or you can perhaps tell yourself a story. This guy works minimum wage and he's trying to get his passengers to work on time. And you can just automatically be calmed down.
Yeah,
Right.
but the thing is, with our actions often is that it's easy to say, yeah, you can control your reaction. But then why do we sometimes still shout at the taxi? Because obviously in that moment, you could not control your reaction. So, yeah, you can control how you react to things, but sometimes it just happens as well. That you react in a certain way that you go afterwards. Oh, I wish I controlled that better. But
I
you
mean, an
just
example
didn't.
would be perhaps social media, and I'm not sure how much of abuse you may get online, and people saying things that are not true. I mean, you could reply to all those comments and take it personally, but I'm sure you don't.
Yeah, but sometimes I do. And then I go afterwards. Fuck, man, why did I do that?
But then do you do it again after you're like, oh,
Yes.
why did I do that?
And then I talked to my therapist, and I was like, I did it again. I shouldn't have, but I did. But I get better at it. I wouldn't reply to all. But we all human. You have your weak moments.
Of course.
And you go, I know I shouldn't, but I'm going to reply to this asshole. Yeah.
Yeah. It's good that you have someone neutral to speak to who's a professional. I think that's so
Yeah,
helpful.
yeah, no, it is, dude. And especially like every time I speak to her now, I realize it's so lacquer because now we've we've been together. I almost said, but um, she's been my therapist for like 7 years now. So especially when you get to a point with a therapist where you've been with them for that long, it really it becomes that's actually when I feel like it becomes really nice because they know you inside out. They know all your traumas, your triggers, your whatever. So then you can really like just chat and they know exactly, yep, I'm not surprised you reacted like this. Whereas obviously the first few years they're still figuring out exactly who you are. You
So you're
know?
describing, being in an environment. What were 2, 3 benefits that you can share with us that you would advise others to perhaps, seek neutral help?
I think everyone should have a therapist, even because sometimes my friend who's like very pro therapy, he was the one who told me sometimes you even just it even just makes you realize how well it's going. But you don't realize how well it's going until you talk to someone and they go, "So how's it going?" And you go, "Oh yeah, actually really well. My relationship's going great." And then you think a bit more and you go, "Yeah, my career is actually a great place. Yeah, my new show, I really love my new show. Um, yeah, no, and my parents all good with them, great relationship." And then you realize, wow, it's actually I'm really blessed, like it's actually
And
going,
even that is just surface level, right?
yeah,
Because you essentially saying, "Oh yeah, no, it's good, it's good, it's good." But then the more you speak about it, the more you reflect on those things, the more you're like, "Oh, actually, I can improve on this." Or actually,
yeah,
here's really good. Let
but
me acknowledge
but
that.
sometimes the lesson of the session like that is just like, geez, dude, be grateful. It's actually going very well,
And
and that is also the with religion. I always think you should always have that balance between whoever you pray to, that balance between asking for help and saying thank you. Like so that's why just in life, you can be upset about things that happen in your life that's bad, but at the same time you have to balance it out with going like, wow, I'm actually really privileged, not necessarily financially, but like I've got a great relationship with my parents. And I always try to, if someone else tells me stuff about their life that is bad, always try and go, wow, okay, I'm actually really lucky that, you know, I've got a good relationship with my parents. Because sometimes it's someone going, oh, I haven't spoken to my mom in 7 years. And you realize it's not something to take for granted, or like just I've got good friendships or whatever.
it's that perspective, right?
Yeah.
We can choose to focus on the bad and what's going wrong, or like you're saying, essentially look at all the things that are happening for you.
Especially in a place like South Africa, just if you have a warm bed at night, food in your stomach and safety, you're already in the top, geez, 10%
Of course.
of the country, Maybe you have a car. Wow, you're already in a, geez, you don't have to take public transport. Yeah, lots to be grateful for. Because sometimes, you always still have career disappointments, even at a higher level. Like back when I was an open spot, a career disappointment would be like, oh, I got booked for support slot at this comedy club and not headliner. But now it's like career disappointments, like, oh, Netflix didn't reply to my email. But then you're like, oh yeah, I'm really disappointed about that. But at the same time, sometimes I also just take a zoom out and go, geez, how many comedians are there that have been trying and hustling to be able to do a 3-week run at the Baxter, but just simply aren't.
On the comedy side of things, how do you deal with or manage the business side of the brand? Because of course, like, you want to focus on your craft and ensure that when it comes to stand up, that your material is good, that you're really giving value to the audience. But then of course there's all the business side of things. So how do you
Yeah.
manage the
I quickly realized, like, just let other people take a piece of the pie. The more you try and go like, oh, I'm going to do this myself because then I don't have to pay that person a 15% commission. The less you can focus on the creative. One of the best decisions I ever made was this year on my tour, and now with Christmas Bonanza. And I don't think I'll ever go back. It's just like getting a stage manager. But a stage manager, you have to pay 2,000 Rand a day, Now, a long run, like this Christmas Bonanza, that adds up to 50,000 Rand. And normally I'd go, I'll just do all the admin and logistics myself, and myself communicate with all the comedians and make sure everyone's on time and make sure everyone's happy, do all the payments myself. Because the fee I'm paying the Baxter, they have also sound technician and stuff, so that I don't need a stage manager because that. But, geez, dude, I would have gotten to the first night and been like, I don't even know what the show is going to be because I've been so preoccupied with all this other stuff. But also you get to a level where you physically can't do it yourself, like Trevor Noah, it would be impossible for him to organize his own tours. It's just, you get to a level where the workload is just too much. And first, there's levels, you need an agent. And then eventually it will be, you don't just need an agent, you need an agent and a producer. Then eventually you'll need a PA as well. You need an agent, a producer, and a PA. Then you'll need eventually, I'm just kind of using Trevor as an example, you'll need someone to manage your finances. He can't, eventually the money becomes too much that you can just go, okay, maybe I'll put 1 million in investments or buy a house there. I mean, because then you go from like money to like wealth. You need someone to properly manage that for you and go, what would be the most beneficial in terms of tax and all that stuff. I'm not there yet. I don't have a wealth manager. But
it almost seems like a mindset shift, right? Because you're going from scarce to growth.
And it is growth,
Right.
You have to say the fact that you are now spending that money to employ someone to do this means the shows are growing to a point where you have to employ that person. It's the same with any company.
Yeah, 100%.
Eventually you go, I can't have two whatever coders for my coding company. I need 10 now because our clients are too many.
Well, even on a micro scale, one of the best piece of advice I got was don't be cheap.
Yeah.
And don't be cheap from firstly, if I'm the founder of this company and I'm doing operations plus business development plus sales plus admin, the company is not going to grow. The quicker I learn to, like you said, find people that I can delegate, that I can perhaps maybe automate some things, that perhaps I can outsource some things, or eliminate the things that just take my time and focus on a thing that really grows the business, the quicker I'll reach my goals and the more successful I'll be. Right.
And it's also just enjoyment. Like, I'm enjoying this month in Cape Town doing these shows so much more than I would have if I, so I could have gone, okay, I'm going to make that bit of extra money and do everything myself. But I would probably have had a terrible month because I would have been, from the moment I opened my eyes in the morning to like midnight, just be on my phone the whole time organizing things. I definitely wouldn't be able to do this podcast. I would have definitely said to you, dude, I can't.
So at what cost to make an extra
Exactly.
buck?
Yeah. So for the extra buck, but what is the cost? Now, got a person, I can wake up, I can have a cup of coffee, I don't have to set an alarm, I can take my dog for a walk, I can see friends, like I can almost every night before the shows, I'm having dinner with a friend before the show because I don't have to be at the theater at 5 because the stage manager's there at 5 and everyone starts coming from 6. And like last night, even I got there at like 6:30 because I know like John Ray's there. If there's a big problem, he'll call me. But there is someone just that has it under control. And I can arrive just like all the other performers and actually just focus on firstly giving a good performance and then secondly just having fun. You know, if I'm having fun, my performance will always be great. Because when I'm having fun on stage and just in a lacquer space, like I perform lacquer. Yeah.
What's your favorite hat to wear? And we were talking about this before we started rolling, where, you know, you've done a TV show, you've acted in the past. Of course, you do stand up. What if you had to do one thing for, you know, a long period of time and you can only choose one?
I would say stand up just out of like the gratification you get for like when it's a success is huge because, for example, World Strangers Jobs. Yes, I hosted. Okay, that's part of the success of the show. But also there was a whole production team that got the guests. So they are also a huge part of the success of the show. Then there's the editor that did a great job with the editing and chose great music. Another part of a great success of the show. And then the director as well. So the show succeeded, yes. But I'm one of 10 people that just contributed to the success of the show. It's still a good feeling, don't get me wrong. But like a stand-up show, it's like there's no other, it's just me. Like I wrote the show, I performed the show. You know, and that's basically a stand-up show. The lights and stuff, it's not theater where that you can really go, the lights were really nice in that stand-up show. It's more just, you know. So when the show is then a big success, you are really like solely responsible for that success, which is a great feeling to be like, I put on a great show. You know, I wasn't one of 20 people that contributed. It was all me. And then when you get that response of people going, that was great, it's really feels lacquer.
Is it the feedback that, you know, keeps you going?
Yeah. And also just, I feel a big responsibility to my audience. You know, so if they leave my show going, that was really great, then I sleep well at night. But that does also turn on the heat and the pressure because now I'm like, you know, the next show better be at least on par. Can't drop the ball.
How do you deal with that pressure?
I guess I don't try and put a show on sale until I'm sure that I've got a good show. I've done it before and I like barely scraped through on my ass. And I managed to like at the last second pull everything, but it was very stressful. But only once I realized like, okay, I've got a lacquer show, then I can like put it on sale and I'm confident.
Got you. Something that I think about is attachment. And I'm very attached to my business and what I'm doing and, you know, trying to grow. And I feel like you, there's a sense of responsibility to others and the impact that I'm trying to make. But I also know that with that attachment, you can perhaps sometimes take things personally.
Yeah, exactly. Stand-up is a very personal thing because, if it's good, it's saying, not the show is good, it's saying you're good. You are good at what you do. Which, once again, sometimes I've done a movie or an ad or whatever that was cuck. I'm not that offended if someone goes, the movie was bad, because I'm like, I didn't write it. I didn't direct it. I didn't edit it. I didn't produce it. And then you can always go, if the script was good, already it would have made the movie 10 times better. I just did the best that I could within a thing that was already not that great to begin with. You know what I mean? The concept wasn't great, whatever. But like stand-up, so them saying the movie wasn't good is not saying I wasn't good as an actor in it. You know, so that you can easily brush off.
But when it comes to your shows,
yeah, your shows,
how do you,
it's like all you, you know. So if it's good,
Yeah.
it's like you are good. You are good as Schalk Bezuidenhout, the comedian. You are good at what you do. If it's bad, it's also going, you're not good. You're not good a good comedian. Because if you were, you would do a good show.
and do you identify with that? So, for example, if someone says that show is crap, and you get feedback, and people don't like it, do you then identify with that to the point in which you think that you are those things, or are you able to like bounce back quick?
I luckily have not done a show where the overwhelming response was bad. If it was, honestly, I would rather then lose money and cancel the rest. If I realized, let's say 3 shows in, this is really not a good show, I'd rather cancel the rest and go, well, it's fine, cut my losses, back to the drawing board. But I've also become better at looking at things in context, like my show last year, November, Otis, there was one guy that was like the worst show I've ever seen. But I mean, it's one guy out of hundreds of people going, that was one of the favorite shows I've ever seen, and I know it was just one guy, because one thing that we all know from social media, people are really not scared to make their voices heard if they were not happy. Because they also feel done in by, because they're like, I paid for my ticket, and then your show was shit. So I know that if no news is good news when it comes to my shows. If because I know if people really felt it was not good, I would get a message and go, I just want to say I wasn't happy.
What's your thoughts on the legacy part? And legacy part from, what do you want to be remembered by 10, 15 years? Is that something that you think about?
Yeah, no, the legacy thing is huge for me, I would rather stop performing and leave and like protect my legacy rather than keep performing, but I've lost it in some way. Because that slowly then chips away at your legacy, We all love, for example, Brad Pitt. If he now reached 70 and then he did 3 of like the worst movies you've ever seen, it would kind of diminish a little bit the great things that he did. And I never want to remember it of I never want to be remembered. I just want to be remembered as he was great at what he did. I don't want to be remembered as he was really great at this part of his career, and then sort of the wheels came off. Yeah.
So I guess my question is,
once I feel my shows, how would I know?
Yeah.
I guess just once the feedback on the shows start to get like, yeah, no, that wasn't amazing. Then I'll be like, cool.
And do you not think that it's perhaps, or it can be an adaptation thing, that perhaps the style needs to be adapted?
Yeah,
into,
but then I would take really probably, instead of a few months, like maybe a few years to really figure it out, so that when I do come back, I can like come back with a bang,
And another question I had was on the behind the scenes. So not many people know about the hard work it goes into behind the scenes, from like the idea generation to, formulating perhaps material on specific experiences in your life. But it's hard work, right?
Yeah.
So how do you remain disciplined and ensure that the quality doesn't, it doesn't get hindered?
Trying to go the extra mile for an audience. That is something that I kind of pride myself on. I always try and get that response from the people. If people say to me, and like someone said it last night after Christmas, you should charge more, then I'm happy, because then I'm like, I've given you what you paid for and more.
Over deliver.
Rather over deliver, definitely. Definitely rather over deliver.
I like that.
But at the same time, you must also value yourself. If the show was 50 Rand, people would be like, huh? I want to go to a 50 Rand show. I want to see a good show. Good show can't be 50 Rand. So you have to try and find that sweet spot of having a ticket that reflects your status, or at least where you think your status is. So, when I put the show together, because it goes on sale months before, before there is even a show. So I thought 250 Rand, I feel confident with my skill as a comedian and the type of show that I can put together that I could give people a 250 Rand show. But then my challenge is, can I make it a 400 Rand show or 500 Rand show? Or like a show that people would go, I would have paid 500 Rand for that,
100%.
Yeah.
Ooh. Schalk, this was cool. The last part of the podcast is called the Fast Fire.
Lekker.
So I'm going to ask you these quick questions, and if you could answer in a word or a short sentence,
Sure.
that would be cool. If you could speak to younger Schalk right now, what would you say to him?
Don't get married with a cruel.
That's some good advice right there.
No, I'm joking. I had to just at least make one of those jokes in this podcast. To young Schalk, I would just be like, you're going to be so happy. You are. You are going to be so happy one day. Yeah. You've got something to look forward to, definitely.
What's one unpopular opinion you have?
Like a good cheap meal is nicer than like super expensive meals. Does that make sense?
100%.
Like, for me, often, like, my taste in food is that I've been to fine dining restaurants where you like pay an arm and a leg
And you're still
for
hungry
food that you
afterwards.
like a lack of fish and chips now from like a proper little cafe somewhere would have been way
Slaps.
nicer. Yeah. Yeah.
If you had to start over from scratch, no contacts, no money, what's the first thing you'd do?
I would just, with stand-up, start all over again. Go back to the clubs. I can have 5 minutes
Just hustle.
and just start again. Yeah.
If you were given a billboard that the entire world could see, what message would you put on it?
I'm single. Call me.
With your number at the bottom.
Yeah. WhatsApp only.
No, that's good.
No, honestly, probably just like come to my shows. Come to my show. Because so many people, like, if the whole world could see it, I'd definitely say just come to my show. So many people, like, you go to these places, you go to like Australia, and then eventually I'm like, I always start in Adelaide,
Yeah.
and then you start in Adelaide, and then you go normally Adelaide, Canberra, Gold Coast, Hobart, and then you do Melbourne, Sydney, Perth, and then to New Zealand. And then often I'm at Sydney now, it's the last of the shows, and then I get this a Facebook comment like, "Come to Adelaide." Oh, I started there. I was there a month ago. Oh, I would have loved to come to the show. Definitely would have. I just didn't know. Because, like, some people just aren't on social media as much.
Yeah.
Like, some people go on once a week. They log on to social media. And
That's some good feedback for your marketing team.
yeah, but then the thing is also, you're so aware you don't want to, the people who are on social media a lot, you don't want to bombard them with
course.
every day, like, come to my show, come to
And
my
be
show, come to my
salesy.
show. But then some people, by the time they go on, your post from yesterday is all the way down, they're not going to see it. So, yeah, I would just say come to my show. At the end of the day, that is my everything, is just performing. And making people laugh specifically. If I can do that to as many people as I can reach, and just to have them leave there with a smile and go, geez, that I really had a good laugh now. Yeah.
Mm.
I'll die happy.
Amazing. Schalk, thank you. This was super cool. Thank you
Thank
for
you, dude. I
sharing
appreciate it.
these insights and being vulnerable with me here today.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, also thank you for the impact that you're making. And I know that I've watched many of your shows, but I had the privilege of watching you live last week at the Startup Awards.
Yeah, yeah,
And for
yeah.
the 15 minutes, like we were in stitches. Like I was just observing people around me, and like we all were laughing from
Thank
the
you,
time
man.
you got into stage to the time you left. It's so cool. Yeah,
Thank
thanks,
you
Scott.
so
This is
much.
good. Yeah, cool. Thank
Lekker,
you, man.
dude. Cheers.